Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Goblin Slayer TRPG. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this role-playing game based on the popular fantasy series, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to continue with the character creation process, with steps 5, 6, and 7, which are writing down your status, acquiring experience points and writing down your adventurer level, and acquiring classes. Let's start with status. A character's status will change from moment to moment during their adventures. Keeping track of it all is what the status section in the character sheet is for. You will keep track of things such as life force, movement speed, spell uses, wounds, fatigue, and attrition. Of this, you don't need to write anything in the wounds, fatigue, or attrition track sections yet. That only happens when you are adventuring or fighting. Not having anything in them is the normal state of your character. Now let's talk about determining life force, movement speed, and how many spell uses your character will have. You roll 2 6-sided dice 3 times and write each result down. If the game master allows it, you may use fixed results instead. So you're going to have 3 numbers that you generated with your rolls, or as indicated by the game master, and you will apply or adjudicate them to life force, movement speed, and how many spell uses you have. These are modified by multipliers. For example, in the case of life force, it's going to be a number. Let's say you rolled an 8 and you decide to use 8 for your life force. This 8 is going to be multiplied by 2 as indicated here, and it's going to be 16. In the case of movement, this depends on your character species. For example, an elf multiplies the number by 4, while a dwarf, that is pretty slow, multiplies this number by 2. So you need to keep in mind what sort of character you're going to play as. If you want to play as a spellcaster, you obviously want to use your highest number in the spell uses per day. But if you are playing as a fighter or a monk, for example, then you want to put a high number when it comes to life force. Now, when it comes to acquiring experience points and writing down your adventurer level, you begin the game with 3,000 experience points. These are both current experience points and cumulative experience points. That is, if you have 3,000 experience points, they stay like that when it comes to cumulative experience points. But if you are spending experience points from those 3,000 experience points, then they are going to go down. They will still remain at 3,000 when it comes to cumulative experience points, but current experience points are going to go down depending on how many experience points you spend. So maybe you decide to spend 2,000, now you only have 1,000 current experience points, but still 3,000 cumulative experience points. These experience points, these cumulative experience points, determine your character level. So as you obtain experience points, you can spend them with no worries at all, because that will still be registered on your character sheet or adventure sheet. So maybe later on you obtain 5,000 experience points. Those are going to be permanent cumulative experience points, but as you spend them, they will go down when it comes to representing current experience points. It's not really confusing. It's just 2 different ways of measuring the same number. Now, a character's adventurer level represents their strength as an adventurer. However, this doesn't include their societal reputation, their level of contribution to the Adventurers Guild, or their personality, so it's separate from their guild-issued rank. We will talk about guild situations or issues in a future part of this review. So characters start the game with an adventurer level of 1. Then you calculate the character's base spell resistance, the score that represents their defense against magic, and you write it down too, of course. Base spell resistance is calculated as psych reflex plus adventurer level plus any bonuses to spell resistance. These are miscellaneous bonuses that could come from other sources. Starting out at adventurer level 1, gives a character 10 advancement points. You can spend these points to learn new skills or advance them. More details about character growth will be provided in a future part of this review. Now, when it comes to acquiring classes, you can level up any class and any number of classes that you want. Although I would recommend that you limit yourself to 2 classes because, well, in my opinion, I think your abilities would be too spread out. It's possible to have, let's say, 3 or 4, but I think a more focused approach is better, in my opinion. So you're going to be purchasing these levels of class with your experience points. But you need to keep in mind that some classes have equipment restrictions. When it comes to weapons, these restrictions are not that severe. You basically cannot use your class bonus when doing attacks with weapons that do not belong to your character class. But in the case of armor, there are severe penalties applied to almost any check related to strength or technique, and this has a thematical and mechanical reason. When it comes to theme, spellcasters, monks, scouts, rangers, etc., they are not effective when carrying out the actions of their professions or their trade or whatever, because the armor would be too cumbersome for the complex movements that they need to perform. But mechanically speaking, this serves as a balancing act so that you do not end up with an overpowered player character. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to continue with the character creation process. So it's all quite simple. You calculate your derived stats, you obtain those experience points, your character level. Remember that your character level is different from class level. You could have an adventurer level of 1, while having 2 levels of dragon priest and 2 levels of monk. It's also important to remember that the cumulative experience points remain always once you reach 5,000 experience points, 6,000 experience points, and so forth. They remain the same. They never go down. But when it comes to cumulative experience points, once you reach 5,000 experience points and you spend those 5,000 XP, then they are gone for good. You can also decide not to spend all of your experience points at the start of the game, save them for later, but I think this is very risky. You want to level up your character as fast as possible so that your chances of survivability go up. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending right through RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.